Hello, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Julie.
Now we're going to do a lightning review of Rotten Tomatoes, the card game by Cryptozoic Entertainment, which is a movie-themed party game for 2 to 20 players. Takes at least 20 minutes to play, and is for ages 10 and up. So first we'll give our overview of how to play, then we'll give our rating and our reasons for our rating, and then we will compare it to a couple games behind here that are in the same category. So the object of Rotten Tomatoes is to be the first to win 10 cards. Each player will receive 3 cards. I have the wild cards out here because they'll be mixed into the draw pile. I'll explain those in a moment. So each player will organize their cards in order by the Tomatometer, which is the critics' rating. So only 2% of critics like Baby Geniuses, 26% Suicide Squad, and 86% Chicago.
1% Daddy Day Camp, 22% Sucker Punch, and 93% Star Wars Episode 4, The New Hope.
So if Julie's first, the player to the right will pick a card and read it, everything except the Tomatometer score. So Julie will have to decide, is it 0 or 1% before Daddy Day Camp? Is it between 1% and 22%? Is it between 22 and 93%? Or is it after the 93%? And if she correctly guesses whatever card this is, she'll add it and be closer to scoring 10 cards. So here's the card. It's Dude, Where's My Car? It came out in 2000. It stars Ashton Kutcher, Sean William Scott. After a raging party, 2 slackers can't remember where they parked and must embark on an epic quest to find their missing car. Oh, and it has an audience rating of 43%. So where do you think this falls here?
I would like to say between 1% and 22%.
Let's see. You are correct.
Wow.
The critics did not like that movie.
Yeah.
So Julie adds it, and she has 4 cards. Now the wild cards can come up and it will interrupt the action. That means all players except the reader can take part. In a 2-player game, I'll go over this in a moment of how the variant for 2 players. It doesn't really work well for 2 players because, I'll give an example here. Here is one of the wild cards. First player to shout out both of the movie's main cast members wins the card. So all players participate except the reader. Do not reveal the release year. Whoever gets closest wins it. Do not reveal the audience score. And then whoever gets closest wins that card, will win the card. The Tomatometer, don't reveal it. Whoever gets closest, which is like the regular play, but all players are participating. Do not reveal the title. Whoever shouts it out first wins it. Now, if there's a tie, you just have to draw another card. So let's say in this example, Julie has to guess the audience score. The Blair Witch Project. What do you think the audience score is?
I would say 88.
Okay. See, it doesn't work in a 2-player game because there's nobody to counter against. So yeah. I'll go over that in a moment after we give our rating of how we can make this work in 2 players. But in multiplayers, let's say Julie said 88 and our son said 75. Well, our son David would win it because he got closest.
Oh, okay.
So let's take a look at our rating here.
Okay.
So how would you rate this?
I would say I would make this an 8.
8. Enjoy playing and would suggest it.
Yep.
I'd say a 7, usually willing to play, because there's other games that we're going to show behind here that do some things better. So it's good that it's in our collection, but the other games, which I'll go over at the end of this, why it's not higher.
Okay.
So is this a fun game?
Oh yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. I love movies. So I just thought this was a lot of fun. There are some movies I'd never even heard of that we came across and was like, oh wow, okay. So it was.
Yeah, I agree.
Fun.
It's fun.
Yeah.
The theme's appropriate.
Oh yeah.
I think, did I say that if the scores can be different on the website?
Yes.
Yeah, I did say that. Okay.
And you're supposed to go by the scores on here.
Right. You go to the scores on the cards. So the theme is fine.
Yep.
In terms of art,
there really isn't any
there's no art. Now, it would have been very expensive for them to do art like you're going to see in the game timeline here, but I would have preferred that. I wish they would have done that.
Yeah.
We'll show the game timeline here in a moment. So the art is a thumbs down. They could have put more effort. Components, this is not a very expensive game. the cards are average.
I think
They do have a
they're
laminate.
Yeah.
They're not below, but so they will handle shuffling. And you're not going to be shuffling these cards a lot because you have this whole deck to go through it. So it's appropriate for the price point.
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at complexity. Well, when you have a rule book like this,
It's
this
pretty
is very
easy
simple.
peasy.
Although I should have included something for 2 players, a little variant here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, what am I doing here?
There you go.
Okay. Playing time. Well, it can be, I can see this being too long with a lot of players.
We played with 5, and
It was over 20 minutes.
it was over 20 minutes.
Right. Playing this with 20 players,
No way.
it would take way too long. You would have to cut it down to like the first of 5 cards or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, or you play teams. But I would not want to play this with a lot of players.
No.
And, 30 minutes is about as much as I would want to play this game.
Yeah.
Age and audience. Well, the nice thing is, it doesn't matter how old you are. You just have to guess the
Yeah.
number. So it's nice for that. It is interesting to see how critics differ from audiences at times. So
Oh, yeah.
so you can see right here, critics really hated Suicide Squad, but the audience was more forgiving.
Yeah.
Design and mechanics, I've already mentioned that the wild cards don't work too well for 2 players. So what I would do, let's say it was the title, I would try to reveal the card without, see,
You couldn't do it.
I didn't do it. Let me try that again. So we could both participate. Okay, so I didn't see it. And then now, I would read everything except the title. I can't do the year. Has Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, and then whoever says it first.
Oh, Step Brothers.
Okay, so Julie beat me to it, and that's fine. I was able to cover it successfully, except it would be hard to cover it and not reveal the year. So there might be a way to do it with 2 players.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just take the wild cards out.
Right, but it's more fun with the wild
Oh,
cards.
definitely.
Because it can get very samey
Yes, I agree.
if you're just doing the Tomatometer score.
No,
It's
I
the
agree.
wild cards that makes it fun.
It's true. True.
And one thing I didn't mention of the wild cards is when it comes up on somebody's turn, everybody participates and you resume that player's turn. So they don't lose their turn. Okay, then finally, learning the rules. I already mentioned that it's easy, but it should have had something for 2 players. Educational merit. There's reading involved.
True.
And I would use this in a video production class. I've taught video production.
That would make more sense.
So I've taught video production for 3 years. I would have had this available to my students. And if you were doing a movie appreciation class, this is a must-have.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any movies in here that I would not want to have kids. I mean, there's some R-rated movies in here.
But they're not going to know really it's R-rated.
Right. I mean, there's some movies I would have to go through here to make sure that there's you wouldn't want to have a movie come up where the kids would want to find, oh, I want to look into that. That's
True.
really naughty.
That's a good point.
Okay, so you might have to go through some of these cards and remove them if you don't want kids to
Be kids.
Well, in other words, to pique their curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's take a look at how this compares to a couple others.
Okay.
So you have Blockbuster. The reason why we've never done this on camera because it takes 4 or more players.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that Rotten Tomatoes does well, is that you can play this with 2 players, even though the wild cards doesn't work as well. Then you have Timeline, and we don't have the case for this right now, but let's first look at Blockbuster. We've played someone else's copy and we own it now, and we need to play this with our children.
Yes.
And what you're doing here is you're trying to win a card from certain categories. You got to get a card from action, all-time classics, drama, comedy, horror, family, animation, and sci-fi fantasy. So this is more of a trivia game, but there's different categories, and you're on teams. So you try to get them to guess the movie with 1 word only. You do a quote from it, try to get them to guess the movie, or you act it out. Now, we're not big fans of acting.
No.
So that's the only negative for us in this game. But because it takes 4 players, this is why we haven't been able to play it as much.
We'll probably have to play it with Eddie and Ariel.
Right. So this is more involved. you have to have more knowledge of the movies.
Definitely.
Okay? This is less involved. This is safer to play with people who don't know movies that well.
True.
This is for more of a movie fans.
Yes.
Okay? And we just haven't played it that much because we don't always in groups that want to do a party game about movies. Now, the game that I have used in the classroom, and we've played a bunch of times, is Timeline, Music, and Cinema. It usually comes in this case like this, okay? And the nice thing about this game, and we would rate this over Rotten Tomatoes and Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you had to rank this, Blockbuster, Rotten Tomatoes, and Timeline, this is like a 9 or a 10 for us.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're trying to collect so many cards. I mean, get rid of your cards. So you start out with a card right here. No, I'm sorry. The date.
Yep.
And you don't know your dates of your cards. And so I'm trying to get rid of my cards, and I have to think, does the first printed music volume come before or after 1995? The first Western come before it? Back to the Future? Before or after Blade Runner? Well, I already know that Blade Runner and Back to the Future are before this. In fact, this is 1982, and I knew that.
Jeez.
Okay. And so then Julia would go, and she would have these 4 cards. And again, this is music and cinema. David Bowie, The Magic Flute,
One More Time, Daft Punk, Gran
and
Torino.
Gran Torino. So she has to decide, does it come between 82 and 95, before 82 or after 95?
The creation of Ziggy Stardust character is definitely before
Yeah, I think that's like
1982.
75.
72.
I was off on that, but I knew it was 70s. So it gets more harder, and if you don't correctly guess, that card's discarded and you get a new one, and the first one to get rid of their cards wins. So this borrows a little similar to Rotten Tomatoes, but look what it has that Rotten Tomatoes doesn't have.
Art.
The nice art. This has more trivia, and with the wild cards, it adds a little bit more variety. But this is so much more...
It's fun to look at because then
Right.
it gives you an idea, too, of what year it could be as well.
Correct. So we enjoy Timeline more simply because of the art, and it's more accessible. And I've used this in the classroom and with kids.
Yeah.
But this is fine.
Oh, yeah.
It's just is not as exciting to play as Timeline.
But we did like it when we were introduced to it. Was it at Gamma?
Oh, Rotten Tomato, yeah. We saw it at Gambit.
Yeah.
All right, so
It was fun.
that's Rotten Tomato. The problem with Timeline, they're making different versions with less cards now. And I don't know if the movie music version is even available anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
Blockbuster I don't know if they're printing it anymore. It was discounted. That's how we got it. It may still be available. It may not. But just keep in mind, this is for 4 or more players and teams.
Yeah, you have to have teams.
So there you go. It's something to consider if you're a movie fan.
Yep.
So thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.